Hello, hello,
Hey,
hello.
hello everybody. How are you? I'm Marilyn and
Tara Winston. And we are the solo CEOs. We've
yes,
missed you. Marilyn, we haven't talked to them. It's like this is the first time in 2021.
it is. But Tara, like all good business people, we made it before the first quarter was over.
We slid right under that bar.
Right in, right under, right? We got the goals. It's like we got to do this so we make sure that we connect with our audience. So I'm so happy that you all are joining us today.
Wow, this talk I am so excited about. Like if we're gonna start 2021 off right, this topic is probably the one that most people are talking about and most people are excited about. Is how to be a master connector in a virtual world. And Marilyn, like how do you feel? How's your networking skills?
My networking skills are great with people I know. But the challenge is, as everybody can understand, especially trying to do this virtually, if I don't know you, I am struggling. I am truly struggling. I'm trying to look through all these business cards that I've collected over the years, and some of those people aren't even alive. So I don't know how good that is. Don't want to network with them.
Yeah, so I struggle to a lot with I love people, but trying to meet new people, following up with people, like once you've met them, then so I have the opposite problem. I get the stack of business cards and I let them ripen on my desk until they they are overripe, and then I feel sufficiently guilty that I haven't contacted them, and then I throw them out. Then I restart the process all over again. I don't know if that's really effective or efficient.
I
So
would say no, or to both, not at all.
so so we've actually bought someone that knows a lot more about this than we do, and like I'll be frantically taking notes in the background. um, Before we get started, one thing we're so happy that you're here. If you have not already done so, we'll get the team to put the link to sign up for the recording, because we can send you the recording afterwards. So if you haven't seen it, or if there's someone else you want to give it to, feel free to click on that. So we'll put that in the chat so that you can have access to it. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker. All right,
Yeah.
so I like to call her the guru extraordinaire, but in fact her name is Sonia Denise. Now, Sonia, if you've not checked out the bio on our landing page, please do so. But to give you a little bit about her, she is the founder and creative strategist of dreamdevelopment.com. Yeah, she's a solopreneur like us. And on top of that, she also has a day job, and she is the leader of the marketing team for United Talent Agency's speaker division. Beyond that, like she might as well be the fairy godmother. She is so adept at helping people get from concept to execution, whether it's coaching, whether it's execution or strategy. She is the absolute truth. And to do that, she has to be a master connector. What I teach her about and what I promised is, before I bring her up, that I would read you one line from her bio that is so powerful that I had to stop myself. She speaks creative, chews on strategy, thinks in campaigns, and dreams in digital. Could there be a better intro than that?
Tara, that's a lot.
That's a lot, right?
That's a lot, but you know what makes me excited about Sonia is that she is so not your typical person you'll see at any conference giving you the 1, 2, 3 jump. This is how you do it. She is genuinely talented at connecting people.
Yeah. All right. So here, say the same deal for anyone who has been with us before. Put your questions and comments in the chat. We're gonna have a Q&A time at the end, so don't worry if we don't get to it during the conversation. And Sonia has a few extra minutes, and so if we get to the end and there's still more questions, she might even answer a few more. Okay. Can we get Sonia on the screen, please?
Yay!
Miss Sonia.
Hey, Sonia.
All right, ladies, I'm gonna leave you to your conversation.
And so, because the platform is only so large, Tara would take up all the time asking all the questions. But she will be back. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us
I'm
today.
honored to be here. Honored.
So, I've been chewing on that line Tara talked about in your LinkedIn bio, lady. But would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I would say that I'm a dualpreneur, and I started Dream Development. Wow, more than 15 years ago. And as a coach and a consultant, I literally feel like I'm a midwife helping people birth their dreams.
Oh my goodness. When you said midwife, I said, oh, she's about to say something about some birthing. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do feel like a proud auntie. You know, I think about the clients that over the years I've had the pleasure of walking with them, but the dream is theirs. So it's their dream. I'm cheering them on. They come back, we touch base, you know, it's that kind of experience. And then I'm also, as Tara mentioned, I call myself an entrepreneur with inside when I work with an organization as a consultant. So I'm inside United Talent Agency, helping with their vision and their dreams and goals around supporting our clients. The focus is actually our speakers division helps to get clients out there and out the door at conferences and, you know, in colleges and universities and things like that. And so the marketing department really helps to manage all of that to support the agents who are bringing some of the most talented people into people's experiences and audiences.
This is so interesting that you're doing all of this, and you're, like you said, you're giving birth to someone else's dream. And as a solopreneur, we always don't have somebody out there doing that for us.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out where the magic potions are. How do we do this? And you know, with pandemic, and I've said that word more than I've ever wanted to say, but with the pandemic, it is so hard to figure out, how am I supposed to network? And you gave us a bit of your secret sauce, but how has networking during the pandemic really changed? How, for you, how are you connecting with all the people? Because I know it's a lot of people, but how are you doing the connections?
What's interesting for me is that there are a couple of different buckets. There are people that you've never met that you'd like to meet. Then there are people that are kind of, you know, in your circle, but for whatever reason you haven't been in touch. And then there are the people who maybe they're not in your circle, you haven't been in touch in a really long time, and you would love to re-engage. And I think for those are just some basic 3 buckets. And then, you know, in the category of people you don't know, typically for as solopreneurs, there's a reason why we want to know them, right? There's some
Right.
level of business that we think we can do, something that's beneficial for us as a business owner. And so I think each of those 3 warrant a different level of engagement. And I would say that with people who I have not been in contact with for years, what's really been pleasantly surprising is being able to re-engage with them and simply say things like, so how are you doing?
Interesting. So are you doing that email, phone call? How, I mean, exactly how are you doing it? Because what we want to do is make this crystal clear to our audience. Here's some things that has worked for Sonia
Right.
that may work for you, especially those like Tara with those ripe business cards. I have a stack like this thick on my desk, and I haven't connected with those folks. So what
Gotcha.
do you suggest?
So in terms of business cards, it's a traditional kind of mode of communication because usually the business card will have their phone number. The issue is, and it's funny, it happened the other day. I was trying to connect some folks and the person was like, oh, I didn't answer her phone call because it said spam only. And or spam likely. And I joked and I said, that's probably why Obama didn't pick up when I called him too. So to the point that people don't answer phones that they don't know. But if you have that card, that means the person gave you the card, right?
Good
So if they
point.
gave you the card, then that means that they might have wanted to hear from you. So, you know, there may be a way to go, let me just circle back. And you know, and a great, sadly, excuse is a quarantine. I've been just, you know, getting adjusted. Things have been busy. But I don't want any more time to pass without reaching
Okay.
out to you today. So now I've placed value by saying I don't want any more time to pass without reaching out to you today. I place value on my time and their time and the connection.
That, you know what, that is a good start to that conversation. But now we know that you are the master connector. And I look at you as that person that can do all the plugs. You do all the plugins for folks. How do I make myself valuable to you to plug me in to the network. Not saying that Sonia's going to plug anybody that's in this stream into her network, but you all might have somebody similar to Sonia in your circle and you just haven't tapped them. So how do we do that?
So in terms of value and engaging with people, I have like 4 questions. I actually started this year with this passion about being really intentional about introductions. And I have a couple of different questions I was going back and forth with, but it is basically, what is it that you want and who do you need to meet?
Okay.
Right. But then the other side of that, so in terms of having value, the question is, well, what you may want, and this is my banner statement for Dream Development, my company, that your dream is the answer to somebody else's prayer, question, or need. That to me has been like so exciting, because what happens is you get outside of the 4 walls of what you want and realize that, wait a minute, what I want may be what somebody else needs.
Right.
That's where the value gets created. It's not like, it's not a pitch. It's alignment.
So that's a really good way to frame it. What's interesting about that is we on the solopreneur side, as you know, we're trying to figure out how we're making those connections, how we can provide a good service that aligns with somebody's dream, because at the end of the road, there's a check.
Hello.
Right? Let's be clear. I wouldn't be out here trying to make those networks and meeting people that I might not know and I may be uncomfortable approaching if there was not a check on the end of it. So talk to me about the timing of all of this, because as solopreneurs and just business people in general, we have that immediate gratification piece. And I love how you bucket so many things where you got your circle, you have the people you know, folks you don't know, how you can make that connection. For the folks that's looking for immediate gratification, let's break it down for them when it comes to this style of networking.
Right. So because my style of networking is relational, you can get immediate gratification in a relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's sustainable.
Talk to me about that, because I love what you just said.
Okay, so I get immediate gratification from, we end up doing a quick deal and it's a one and done, but there's nothing sticky about it. They're complete. They don't come back. There's nothing else that helps them remember me or think of me again, because I might have missed that if I took the time to listen from a longer term view, like a bigger view as opposed to this one, that we actually had 5 deals that we were going to be able to develop and cultivate, mature, and that would end up creating other deals and other partnerships and other relationships. So the transactional dynamic is really interesting, because sometimes people just want to check the box and be done with it. And that might work for certain styles, certain industries. But if you need a pipeline, if you want to activate that pipeline, I think the concept of seeding it is an important thing. And so I think that if you just want to meet people and say you got all these relationships, the question for me is, what was the point? What's the value of the one and done? If the one and done is something that has a big check associated with it, then maybe that's fine. But if you really, from a business perspective, are like, every time I pipeline, it means I'm not doing this. Every time I pitch, it means I'm not doing that. Like there's 168 hours in a week, 720 hours in a 30-day month. So you got to step back and decide, so what am I spending my energy doing? However, relationships that I seeded that were organic come back to me when I'm not even working on them. Because the value's already been there. The value's already been sewn into the relationship, and the trust is there. So they're thinking of me and I'm thinking of them.
So just so our audience understands that you're not just speaking because it sounds good, but you speak because you have the history. Why don't you tell us one of those stories? Because I love your stories about how something started one way and fell off the rails, because we all have that. We
Right.
have the best intentions. We start thinking about the one and dones because that's an immediate check.
Yeah.
And then we realized we should have been building that long-term relationship. Just give us, our audience, one of those good Sonia stories. That's
Ooh.
where the learning is. People, get the ink pens out.
Okay, so this one is a bunch of serendipity and timing. Got a little bit of attitude in it too, and it's kind of a cool story. And I'll say that this is somebody who I've never physically met to this day. So it was 2012? No, farther back. I was working on a project where I was raising an endowment, and the endowment is in the name of Ossie Davis. And Ossie Davis is an iconic African American actor who, just there's so many things about Mr. Davis that are teachable and that you can learn from. And I happened to be in Chicago, and this is it was so cool because I wanted to connect with candidate Barack Obama. And so there was someone in politics who said that they could put me in touch. And I thought, okay, that's great. Thank you. Yay. And I kept calling and they kept saying, oh, there's this one guy, we got to get to him, but he's so busy. The campaign's going on. I get you. I feel you. It's a campaign. You're about to be the first Black president. I understand. Howsoever, you did say you were going to put me in touch with him. And so that it just felt like it got a little weird at a certain point. So I ended up speaking with someone else in the person's office, and they said to me, they said, well, you don't know how this works. And I got my back.
You got schooled right away.
I got my back up. And I said, I don't? Okay. Well, I said, I feel like it's pretty simple. Either you're able to reach him or you aren't, or you're going to give me a more reasonable time frame. But you know what? Like I said, I had a little bit of toot. So I went online and I Googled his name and Michelle Obama's name. And found that he had spoken at a college in Colorado, Aspen, Colorado. So I called the college and ended up speaking to the president. And I said, hey, I'm trying to reach blah, 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 blah. And he said, do you want his cell phone number?
Wow.
I said, yes. I'll take it. So I called. And of course, again, the campaign's going on, the first election. So he was super busy. And I kept getting I couldn't even leave a message. So I held on to the phone number. 4 years later,
Wow.
I'm working on a project with the Davis family as well. Muta Ali, who is the grandson of Ozzie and Ruby, wanted to do a documentary about his grandparents. And he's actually up for an NAACP award. Just wanted to say that because I'm so proud for him.
Congratulations.
Yeah, for him. Yeah. That's, again, that's his thing. But yes, so that's amazing. So back to the story. And so I called the man who happens to be named Ken Bennett.
Okay.
So Ken is like, oh, hey, Sonia. And I'm like, oh, he answered. And so again, I had the number 4 years, called him. Hey, I reached out to you then. I know things were busy. And again, this is the second campaign now because it's 4 years later.
Wow.
So he's running for the second time. And I shared with him about the documentary that we were working on. And that was May of 2012. And so, yeah. So he was like, this is exciting. Keep me posted. I'm like, yay. So we do, raise money. We did a Kickstarter campaign. We, have the film, 26 minutes of the film ready to go. And the Muta Ali and Javon Frank, who are the producers, decide that they want to show 26 minutes of it at Miss D's 90th birthday. Okay. And so Hesna Muhammad, Miss D's daughter, says, maybe we can get a letter from President Obama. And I'm like, huh. And I'm like, maybe we can.
Mm-hmm.
So I call Ken Bennett and he's like, let me see what I can do. Michelle loves Miss D, da, 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 da. And so this is like, this is the thing. The story gets even more like up to the minute of Angela Bassett taking the stage. We're passing her the letter on November. Gosh. And it was November 14th, 7 days after the election.
Wow. So,
the fun part is that Ken is Chance the Rapper's dad. And I'm like,
how does this happen? Right.
But because I think there's a thing about having an open hand, being intentional, again, being a bit of a stalker, because I was just like, I'm gonna hold on to this number, sweet stalker. But yeah, I was like, I need to there's value here. And the value for me wasn't about Sonia reaching out to Ken Bennett. It was about the value for Miss D and the Davis family and having a letter from President Obama wishing her a happy 90th birthday. Like, yes.
You made it happen. So you just dropped so many important nuggets there. It's amazing. The first thing is just your persistence, but not, like you said, a scary stalker. And you didn't keep hounding people. And I think that that's appreciated. Like you said, you had an open hand. People didn't feel threatened. They didn't feel like, okay, she's calling again. Because let's be honest, Sonia, how many people keep a phone number for 4 years? How many, and this is a lesson, how many times did you call that phone number during that 4-year time?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I could never leave a message. I wasn't trying to text some, random text. His accessibility is an important part of that story, because for this guy who's the president of this college to say, do you want his number, meant that he was someone who he felt he could do that with, So, I thought that's an important part of it too. And then I would ask, what's the best time to reach you? Is it okay to text? Once we had made connection, he said, keep me informed. I was like, how? How should I do that?
I love it.
Right?
I love
it's
it.
Relationship.
So for our folks who aren't as comfortable building that relationship, can you give me just a little bit about how you get yourself ready, even to make that ask? Because I mean, it probably at this point in your career is second nature, but do you talk to yourself? Like, how do you get yourself pumped up to say, I'm about to call this heavy hitter and maybe they might slam the phone? What do I do? And then what do I do if they pick up the phone and it's like, who in the heck is this? And don't call me anymore.
Yeah,
because I think you got a story about that too.
Oh gosh, do I? I will say that I'm an introvert, and I want to own that, because I think that may connect with some folks who feel a little bit like,
Say that again, please, loud and proud.
That I am an introvert, or I would say an introverted extrovert. There's an introvert, the extrovert, the ambivert, and the omnivert. Omniverts go back and forth between the two. Ambiverts are like a mixture of the two. I think I'm more of an ambivert. That said, I think it's important to say that I recharge through introversion, but I serve through extroversion. So networking lives in that passion place, because it's the place that I serve from. So the reason why I kind of get over myself, which is the best way for me to say it, is because I see that, wait, they're not rejecting me, and they're not saying no to me. They're saying no to something that they just don't realize how awesome it is. So that's
right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I feel like no is not yet. And when no is really no, because sometimes it is, then tell me, what are you interested in? Well, how can I keep in touch with you? Because again, it's about the relationship, not about the transaction. And so that story that reminds me of what you mentioned. I was in Chicago. These things happen.
What is with you in Chicago? It is an amazing city, of course.
I really do love Chicago. I have to say that, and I've always had great weather every time I was there.
That's uncommon, but okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? It was an unusual experience. So in Chicago, we are actually back doing the endowment. So I'm going to take you back to that time frame. And we were doing a 3-city tour. Atlanta, New York, and Misty had been nominated for a Oscar that year. So it was just a lot of fun. And so yeah, the movie The Pursuit of Happiness was about an individual by the name of Chris Gardner. So I'm in Chicago, and I'm going, okay, who can we invite to the event? And when I was in New York, someone had suggested I reach out to, Mr. Gardner. So I call, because I find his number, and, because that's what we do when we want to reach people sometimes. Back in the day, before we could just DM them, right? Found his number and called him. And I said, hey, this is Sonia, and we're in town for this, and blah, 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 suggested I call you, and we're going to be doing this event, and blah, blah, blah is hosting, and would you, like to come through? And when I said the name of the person hosting, he said, oh, that's the name you should have started with, and hung up.
Wow. Wow.
So I said, okay. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just call you back. So I called him back and I said, hey, Abe suggested I give you a call because that's the person who's hosting. And he said, Abe, oh, Abe's my friend. Like, I love Abe. And so we role played this entire conversation as if the other one never happened. And then he said, you know, Sonia, since the movie came out, I get all sorts of phone calls from all sorts of people, and I don't know. But I also did not know that Abe was the name to use as opposed to the other person in New York who
Okay.
suggested. So
Mm-hmm.
what I took that hang up as that, you know, I'm not talking to you. What I just took it as feedback.
I think it's great feedback, but it also shows the bravery that you exhibit when you call back, because a lot of times people might call and go, oh my God, I might not have said the right thing. I made him mad. But as a solopreneur, a lot of times I think you got to kind of brush it off and go, okay, it ain't about me. Like you said earlier, it ain't about me. I'm going to learn from it and keep going. And so I think that when you told me that story originally, I was wondering, well, what in the world would I have done if somebody had hung up? But that's the bravery that you have to show as a solopreneur.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you would say, definitely, please, people, do not do when you're trying to build that network?
Don't be creepy.
So give me a little bit about creepy, because creepy is, you know, I don't know. Sometimes you got to be a little creepy, Sonia.
Well, okay, listen, I can research all I want, but I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't probably tell them all the research I did unless that makes sense, right? Like, hey, how's your child that you never talked to me about? Like,
Yeah,
that's awkward.
that's weird.
That
Mm-hmm.
would be uncomfortable. I think that if people do give you clear, like if Chris had hung up and said, you blew it, you should have used that name, and you know what, I'm not coming and I don't want to talk to you, then I would have said, okay, that's a whole lot of no's.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's because respecting people's boundaries and respecting people's virtual space.
Okay, so
And let me speak to that for a
yeah,
second.
I was about to, you know, I was about to say, what's that virtual space?
Right up in here right now, quarantine, pandemic life, people are different right now. People
Mm-hmm.
have been traumatized. And sometimes they don't know what they don't know. They don't
Yeah.
realize that they're not communicating a way they've normally communicated. They may not follow up with you. Like one of the things I say is, I don't want followers. I just want people to follow up.
I love it.
But I've had to go, if they're not, give them grace. If
Mm-hmm.
they're not, what else might be going on? If they're
Great.
not, what do I need to be thinking about holding them for? And okay, because not about me, right?
Great.
So, but again, if I think that it's about giving it a beat, waiting for a second, maybe it's not a phone call, maybe it's a text. If I have that type of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's an email to say, hey, I left you a message. If it's not a good time, give people the out that they might not be able to communicate, because none of us have lived through this before,
Great.
and hopefully we never will again, but we've not experienced anything like this.
I love it when you talk about giving people grace, because when you're on one side of the equation trying to make the sell, trying to deliver whatever it is, great thing that you have, sometimes the idea of giving someone grace escapes you,
Mm-hmm.
because all you see is, I have this will be great for them. So I love that message about pump the brakes a little bit.
Well, the thing that you we haven't said this, but I've said it, but I want to say this. If there's a takeaway, we have to go bigger than the transaction,
Okay.
bigger than the close, bigger than the check. Because, and we don't know what that bigger is. So maybe if we go into stuff with a question instead of what we think is the resolution, we'll stay more engaged. We'll
Mm-hmm.
be a little bit more. When somebody's wooing someone, when they're trying to get their attention, they don't give up wooing. They don't give up pursuit. They don't give up trying to like get their attention until they've gotten their attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, but they're not just trying to get their attention to get them to say yes. They're looking for something bigger. They want ideally, a more sustained relationship. And so I just think that if we look beyond the transaction to sustainable relationships, that would be great.
And the idea of looking past the check,
yeah,
and looking past that one and done, it is worth its weight, because you've experienced it.
Yeah. But it also,
about to say something.
Yeah, because easier said than done when you got bills, you got family, you got issue. You like, it's like, so what does that look like right up in here right now? When it's uncomfortable, and it's not ever been easy. I've had those like, whoa, this is getting real meager right up in here. This is okay. No, they're calling me. I'm gonna answer, but I'm gonna be honest and tell them I don't have what they're calling me for, a bill or whatever that case may be. Like that's real too. And I think that it has been for me faith that has kept me during those times. And there's a statement that says, when you come to the end of all the light you know, and you take that first step into the unknown, the darkness of the unknown, you must believe that one of two things is possible. You'll be taught how to fly, or there's something solid to step on.
Wow.
And I think that when I'm flying, I'm suspended by God's grace. So,
because you are.
And it's not always like comfortable to just. I have a friend who's an amazing, talented actor who has shared with me. His name is Alami Ballard, and Alami has always talked about walking in this space of possibility, regardless of what's going on around him, regardless of what he sees and doesn't see, regardless of the gig he gets and the gig that he didn't get. Right. He's on Queen of the South right now. And,
wow.
It's just like, yeah, but he's been, he's been doing this for years. He's an industry vet, and his intention is to see it here and walk into it, no matter what the circumstances around him. Walking literally as an example of living this out by faith.
This is so good. Yeah. I'm going to take us a little bit off on the side, because what you're talking about is something that solopreneurs ultimately will run into, which is, how do you deal with that fear? Yeah. And part of that fear is fear of networking, fear of growth, fear of not being able to pay that bill, just like what you talked about. How are you recharging? Because I understand you. It's clear that you're a person of faith and a person of strong belief. But the recharge process, and I think that's important for people to understand, because you are going to get lots of no's, and you got to continue to recharge yourself. There are things that you're doing, Sonia, that keep you up, so that you can go to the next thing, so that you can find that next opportunity, so that you can strategize about figuring out, how do I make what I'm talking about bigger than just that check, that one and done? What are you doing?
So my practices, because I really feel like I'm living out my calling, so I don't get tired as if it were a job.
Can I pause you on that? With that calling, I think it's so important for people to hear what she's saying about, if you are in business for yourself, please be in business for yourself, doing the things that you want to do, because what Sonia's about to share with you as far as her calling, it only happens because you believe in what you're doing.
Copy that. Absolutely. And because I believe in it, it's tied to values. Those values are tied to, like, everybody that I've ever had the honor and pleasure to work with were people that I chose, and they chose me because there was something in our values that were in the same space. It didn't always work out, but that was still an initial kind of like, we have agreement there. Mm-hmm. I think the work that I do energizes me, but I also know the value of sleeping. I know the value of, and I'm learning that more and more. Okay. And I just wanted to say that because it's a work in progress. I think that when I talked about being an introvert and taking that time away, I tell people to make a fascination list. What are the things that fascinate you? Huh?
What's a fascination list? That sounds exciting.
So my favorite. So what? A few of my favorite things. I love watching the old movie 12 Angry Men. I love that.
Okay.
I like, Tale of Two Cities. Like, I like old movies, right? Mm-hmm. But then the new version of it, 12 Angry Men is really awesome too. I like, I used to really like aqua cycling when we could bike in the water, and that was kind of fun to do back in the day.
Okay.
Like, what are the list of things that energize you, that excite you? I love learning new things. NFT, I'm kind of like, hey, what's that about? Need to understand, that whole what's happening with the NFT world from cryptocurrency, and like, so learning something new, love that kind of stuff. So those things disconnect me from the work and then allow me to explore other things that I value, other things that help to round me out. And then talking to my folk, my peeps, my tribe, that's energizing too. And family. My little cousin who hasn't called us yet, but he could interrupt us, but he won't. Yeah.
And you know what? We'll take the call.
Yeah.
So that is, I love the fascination list and just the ways that you're energizing yourself to get back out there, get back in the game, and be strong at what you're doing. For some of our folks who are still kind of figuring it out, the obvious usual suspects of finding people would be on networks and platforms like LinkedIn. What are some of the platforms that you use? Because I know you said, hey, you can DM people. Your name holds a lot more weight than others. So people might respond to you quicker than they might respond to other people. What are some of the platforms that you're using that you think are really good for folks to start the process?
I think that is a combination of offline and online tools and opportunities. I think that I will recommend highly for business owners the New York City Chamber of Commerce. Whether you are in New York City or not, this Chamber of Commerce is one of the, and there's also the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Both of those, I'm part of both of those networks. What's interesting about the New York City Chamber of Commerce is that they have a collaborative perspective and are so passionate about making sure that people, like they had somebody from the Kansas Chamber of Commerce join. Like they had made a presentation. And I think, again, the pandemic has been a level set. So the world has opened up in a way that maybe it wasn't open before. So I think like offline groups, like things like that, where people can pitch or hear what other people are working on. And people are so intentional there about networking. And I know there's like the BNI kind of model as well. And I haven't really engaged with that, but I know some people do that. But I use any platform where I can find folks, right? So like LinkedIn can be a little spammy, but I pay for a service called LinkedIn Sales Navigator because I want to read and find out what people are focusing on, what's going on in certain companies. So Sales Navigator gives you a little bit more intel, and it's a little pricey, but you can go get a free one, and that and I know they're probably doing something for pandemic pricing. So what else? Lunch Club. Lunch Club is kind of new and fun. Well, maybe it's not new because I talked to someone the other day who said they used to do it in person. But Lunch Club is where you say, here are the things I'm looking for. New job. I want to learn about new companies. I want to learn how to raise money. Like you can pick from a certain set of things that you want to focus on. And then they will connect you to people who could be complementary connections.
Interesting.
Conversations. And I've had some really, really rich engagements over those conversations that I've referred people to other people. I've ended up coaching people. It's been great. So what else? Slack. So what I find is that people are creating.
Using Slack?
So the people are using Slack as a community builder.
Okay.
There are companies that, so I'm probably part of like a bunch of them, but yeah, there's a venture capital Slack that I'm a part of because that's an area of interest. There is Beautiful Ventures as a company, a client who's created their own Slack group as well to activate community. But there's a reason why. There's an email marketing company that has a Slack group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's called the best emails or something like that. Really good emails. That's the name of the company. So sometimes interest groups are realizing Slack can be a way to build community. There are a number of Slacks available for African American entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs in particular. Hire Black is an initiative that was started by a young lady, Deani Talbert, I believe, online, and she's created a Slack group. So it's just Slack is a really interesting, like, new technique that people are using to build relationship with total strangers.
That's really interesting.
Hey,
And like magic, Tara has popped in. Sonia,
welcome.
I want to say thank you for such a rich conversation. I know we covered a ton of stuff, and our audience, we have some great comments in our comment side. This is the time where if you all have any questions, please post them in the chat and Sonia will answer them. But I think it's important for everybody to understand that networking and making connections is not one and done, as Sonia exhibited. And there's ways to recharge, because I'm sure everybody, Sonia, thinks that you woke up that fabulous, because you did. However, 5 minutes after you woke up and made those calls, you had to recharge.
Right.
And then you went back out there and did it. So I want to thank you. This was such a great conversation.
You.
And Tara, what are your comments?
I couldn't comment. I was writing too many notes. I'm sorry. Phenomenal. And everybody, put any questions you have in the comment section. We actually had some comments. So this conversation was so hot. As I was talking to people, they were like, "Ooh, I wonder." So I actually have some questions that came before we even did, got online. So I think the first one is really, there's so many books out there about how to network, and they have whole chapters around processes to stay connected and maintenance of your networks, right? So is there anything that you do kind of on a regular basis to kind of maintain and cultivate the contacts you already have?
So I'll answer that. I'm going to think about that while I also share that one of the books that I really like, and it's a little old, but it could be really, I think it's relevant because she wrote it from a future perspective, is Porter Gale's Your Network is Your Net Worth.
Okay.
That's a great book to consider. And so to the question of, is there something that I'm doing to maintain, I'm always looking for a better way to organize my contacts and things like that. I think that my heart is to listen to people whenever we connect. I spend a couple of days within my schedule just making sure I'm reaching out. Because I really want.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But and I think again that 168 hours in a week, when I look at the days and I go, okay, I want to block off this amount of time just to ask, via email or text, how are you doing? I'm into emojis, and so I've got my own personal one. So sometimes I'll send people, and I don't text a lot, but that's a way of just letting folks know, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm really, birthdays. So which one's coming up? But
Yes, the end of this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Hers,
Sonia. But I with friends, what I do is I try to meet once a month if there's a cycle that we're in, or we're focusing on something that the day of their birth every month we touch base. That's that's tribe. I do that with family and tribe. I try to do that. So those are some of the things I use because it also helps me remember birthdays, and it's intentional. It's got a nice rhythm to it, and we can.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. All right. So someone asked about elevator pitches, right? So for years, particularly solopreneurs have you practice your elevator pitch. Is that still a thing in our digital
Especially
environment?
since we can't be in an elevator right now.
Be in an elevator right now.
You might not want to be in the elevator, right?
Right, but is it still a thing? And if so, kind of what does it need to be? Because I would say one of my personal challenges is it's always felt so artificial.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of robotic.
Mm-hmm.
It can be. I think that it goes back to what you value. If you're passionate about what you're saying, it won't feel robotic. So it's what, and also it's connected to making connections and alignment. So if I'm in a conversation with someone and I've listened enough to know what they're interested in, I might have a couple of different elevator pitches to say, well, I've heard what you said. And you know what I really do? I help people develop their dreams and put them into action. Right? I mean, that's it. Or if somebody's like, well, I need to raise money. Well, I've helped people to fund and execute their dreams. So the words that I choose are different. I would probably come up, like I said, a fascination list. I would come up with a list of keywords that are part of your elevator pitch. and play it like a piano, like keys on a piano. Like, what do you want to put together based on it? What are your business goals? And so, but then the ultimate like umbrella is, I say to people that I see my personal thing is I see possibilities where other people see problems. That's me all day. I'm reframing, kind of like, but what if this is this? So what is your banner statement about who you are? Because maybe you haven't heard enough from that person to be able to do a pitch, but you can say, well, I've heard you and I really, I want you to remember this about me. I'm a problem solver, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. And so maybe it's not the company, but it's the you who is the soul of the company as the solopreneur.
Like that. But something you keep saying, and I want people to hear you loud and clear, you continue to use the word listen. You can't build any kind of pitch unless you listen to what people are talking about. And that was something that you said throughout our talk, how often you just listen to people. And then I think your people just felt your genuineness when you did contact them.
Right.
Okay, so take us back to a time before you were Sonia Denise, right? Because right now you are capital Sonia, capital Denise. People pick up your calls, right? And so you get to just listen and you get to connect and you do all those things. When you were lowercase Sonia Denise, right? So you didn't have a reputation, how did you get enough credibility to be in a position to just listen?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I had some scrappy tactics back in the day. Yeah, that part. Yeah, I don't know if I shared this, but I used to go to Barnes and Nobles and put my business card in books.
This is the first I'm ever hearing that.
Okay, so is that a definite don't now?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, at the airport, maybe that may be a way you could do it. Like, so I would, walk over to the book as if I think my client might be reading this, and I would stand there as if I was reading it, and then I'd slip my card in as if it was a bookmark and put it back. I would do that a couple of times. But and again, there's no credibility in that. That's just mad scrappy. And I think that's what I did. I thought, I don't have credibility. People don't know me from boo. And I do believe that if I had been thinking the way I think now, I would have gone after the relationships a little differently and I would have had a better ask, because I don't think I had a really strong ask at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so talk about that, right? Like, so what makes a strong ask?
Your clarity, I think, and I've started to ask people this twice. I ask them what they want, and then I ask them what do they want again. Because I think that sometimes hearing yourself say it the second time gives you clarity. So clarity is important. I think that knowing how you want help is important. So many people say I need help, but they don't know what that looks like, and then somebody helps them and then they reject it and the person's like, "What?" And it was because it wasn't exactly what they were thinking of, because they hadn't thought it through enough to know what help looks like. What is the best kind of outcome? What is the best outcome? I think that that's also important in terms of a good ask. And I think it's important to know who you're asking, because not everybody can help you, and not everybody can help you the way you might want help. And there may be multiple asks. So
that is interesting. Terry, got any more?
Well, yeah. So a question did come through, and it's a little like I'm in the ask category. I'm like, well, I gotta get my ass together. But someone actually
ASK.
Well, my ASS has to get my ASK together.
Yeah.
But actually, like the conversation around recharging became actually, you saw in the comments people were talking about it. And so as an introvert, right? So like beyond your fascination list, are there things specifically that you need to do? Particularly, there's so many of our solopreneurs who are introverted, and like you, they serve extroverted, and that can actually be even more depleting than normal, right? Anything specific for introverts?
Where you find your quiet space, go there. Like, whatever that looks like. Is it a walk? Like sometimes I was walking with a friend who's a trainer, and it was cool because I realized I was walking into my office. So it felt kind of like walking into work, right? So you just get up and get started at the computer. You know, putting those pivot points into the day, I think, is an important thing. I think that I did, you know, use like a timer to make myself get up and get away from the activities. There are books. I have a hammock, and so swinging in the hammock.
You
Yes,
have a hammock.
Inside.
yes.
No.
But you know, like
It
seriously,
Yes.
it does, and you can like swing and like read a book, and why not?
I'm so inspired by your hammock, girl. I love that.
Right. But you know what, Tara, what I would love to find out from Sonia is, what are some of your boundaries?
Mm.
We don't do drama. We don't do drama. We don't do drama. That's a boundary. Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of sets up everything else. I think of when things can get messy, and being able to release yourself from those things. Again, grace comes back into the conversation, and making sure that you are giving people the grace that they need, and also taking the grace that you need. But disengaging from drama is huge. I've always been that way, though. I think since I was a little tyke. Yeah, I'm not trying to do it. And what else? Oh, so I have organized my life in a couple of different categories, which helps me to manage people's energy, because I do love people. I don't always like them, because you know that's part of the introversion. I need to sometimes just pull away, like a pair of shoes that I've worn too long. I need to, you know, pull away. So I think that's part of like knowing who people are in my life, and the kind of energy that they may call from or call on. If I spend too much time with clients, I could get exhausted, right? So that little phone call from my 6-year-old cousin, we're on duo, and he's like just talking about whatever, that's energizing, you know. And not having children, that's great, because if I had children, maybe that wouldn't be great, because you know sometimes you need to pull away from kids to recharge.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy that they give out.
They
So,
need it. Yeah.
Sonia, a question just came through around Clubhouse. Like Clubhouse is what everybody is talking about now, right? So, like Clubhouse, it was first created for networking. What do you think?
So I'm renting my little cousin's phone, because I only use an Android, and they're not on Android yet. So I've been renting her phone.
Okay, so yeah, that means your little cousin is the real solopreneur, because she got you.
She don't even know. She don't understand.
So what do you think?
So I think that it's another telephone. I think that people, depending on where you are, I think that if I had had Clubhouse when I had first started, then that's where I would have been networking and talking to people and holding sessions and doing all sorts of things. I was on a call the other day and just listening on, again, NFTs. So it's a great place to learn. I think that there are some rules of engagement that are good to know. I'm learning more about it, and looking forward to spending some time actually to get some best practices. But I think that people are finding jobs on Clubhouse. They are raising money.
Interesting.
They are, yeah, because it's a
Nice.
place again where people want to connect right now. Thank you for giving us a sense of connection, and I don't have to be on screen. Oh, great. You know, so I think it's another telephone. I think all social platforms are just another phone. And the issue is, how do you want to use it, and what do you want to use it for? If you are at a certain level, though, in your career, you could be giving away too much. So there are
Okay.
people giving away a lot of free stuff, and the consultant's curse is scope creep, right? Giving
Yeah.
away more than what you've been asked to do because you get passionate, or because they start to take advantage, but also giving value away and not receiving proper compensation.
Yeah.
Which is really hard, and it's happening a lot in Clubhouse. All right, so last question. Because of the pandemic, but also just general in the life of a solopreneur, we often have to pivot, right? Change an industry, change a set of products. And so a lot of people, particularly right now, feel like they're starting afresh. Like their network was great for where they were, but now they need to build an entire new network. If you were in that position, where would you start?
Where would I start building a new network? I would say Lunch Club and the Chambers of Commerce. I really would, because what happened for me too is that I began to listen for, when I was in the Chamber of Commerce, how people were managing the pandemic. Right. I think also that sorry, I got excited. So on my website, I'll just say that I have this page called Opportunities, because anybody who knows me who's on this got emails from me all last year, because I kept, every time I heard about a new opportunity or a job or something like that, I was like emailing folks. And I was like, literally, I don't have like an e-blast list. I don't use MailChimp. And so I'm thinking, who is this right for? So I wasn't just ever sending something to send it. That said, I was like, this is a lot. So my web designer and I, we talked, and she created a page for me where on this page, it's called Opportunities. So there's different places to get resources. The reason I bring that up is because there's a list called the Pay It Forward list of people who just recognized that they had privilege and recognized that there are people who did not have privilege that they wanted to make sure that they were networking with. That list is 1,000 people strong.
Wow.
There's also so it's in a basic Excel tab, but then on one part of the Excel tab are companies hiring, and the other one are people who said, go to my Calendly, make an appointment, let's chat. You want to start making new contacts and say, here's my business question. My business is halted. I'm looking in this industry. What do you recommend? That's a great, easy conversation to have with rando people that you won't know otherwise.
What I think today, Tara, that I took away from a lot of what Sonia was talking about, although these things are beneficial during the pandemic, I think these are things that you should start using post-pandemic. Right. These are strategies and tactics. It doesn't sound like many of your strategies changed during pandemic.
I feel like we had the opportunity to be more human. So
yeah.
Okay, that is actually the perfect way to close this conversation. Like the net, be more human in your relationships, and apparently be a little scrappy. Like that's what I'm getting. Like be more human, and there's just be gully, and scrappy the way that Sonia is, and
like the empty envelope. Remember that?
Right, the empty envelope. But you know what? Also old school, because when you said chambers of commerce, a lot of times we don't really think of chambers of commerce, but that is true old school business.
I should say the empty envelope is when I used to send people a note without something in it and say on the outside of it, hey, this is just for you. And then they would call me and say, you forgot to send me something.
Okay, I think that is a whole different conversation. The scrappy conversation.
That is the scrappy conversation. Wait a minute. Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it here. So if I get a bunch of empty envelopes, I know what y'all did. Sonia, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like, so beyond just like being a fountain of knowledge, one of the things that the solo CEOs is so important to us is authentic connections, right? So many people walk into this afraid that they have to be fake or phony, used car salesman or any of those things. And you exemplify how to do this right. If you do it in your full heart and full generosity, then it's good. It's good for you as a human. It's good for us collectively as humans. And it's amazing for your business too, right? Like it truly is the version of win-win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. It's a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure.
Oh,
wonderful.
All right. So for everyone who is not Sonia, please pay attention. Krista, go ahead, give Sonia a rest. You can find Sonia's information on her website, dreamdevelopment.com. It's in her bio. Go visit it. Go and see her opportunities page. She is an amazing coach. So if you have a dream that needs to be developed in some kind of way, absolutely look her up. Or if you are a celebrity and need of some talent management on her day job side, she's got you too. Marilyn.
Yes, ma'am.
What a way to come back in 2021.
I thought it was great. I learned a lot. It confirmed some of the stuff that we've just been talking about over time. for everyone that's watching us. She laid down a lot of nuggets. Please share this information with your people, your tribe, as well as you might want to re-listen to what she's talking about, because there's a lot of things she spoke about that are important that we know it end up being successful techniques. So check us out again.
Absolutely. So again, we'll repost in the chat, but
Yep.
like send it to the link to anybody that needs to, and they can rewatch it once we release it. Meryl and I are we're so excited. Big things are happening at the Solo CEOs. Please stay connected to us. If you have time, we're actually going to have a panel at a conference this weekend. It's a virtual conference, and it is free.
Yes.
So
free 99.
$3.99. The Rolling Out Conference on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We will be doing a session called "My Work, My Way: Secrets of Solopreneurship." So, if you got time, we would love for you to come and visit us then. Marilyn, Little Birdie told me that there may be a podcast coming out.
So, we've listened to all of the feedback that we've been getting, and Tara and I got together and said, you know what? We need to talk to our people more often. So we're launching a podcast next month, April 21, 2021. So you know what? 2020 was the perfect groundwork for us to start working on what we could deliver. Look for our podcast next month. Yeah, which is actually, believe it or not, in a couple of weeks.
That I don't love how
Isn't
that
that crazy? Yeah.
Man, we got work to do.
Yeah.
And stay connected, right? Like we love doing these guru talks. Please send us, whether it's on social media, drop us an email. Let us know what other topics or even other speakers you want to hear, because as you can see, there's so much good stuff out there.
Right.
So stop by. Thank y'all. Thank you so much for coming.
We want to thank our audience. Thank Sonia. Thank our sponsors, Freddie Mac and Ball Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want to thank our team. Although we're solopreneurs, we can't deliver this without some amazing team members. Our 3 powerhouse ladies are behind us: Krista Winston, Latoya Williamson, and Sherry Trotter. We could not do this without them. And I'm loving all of the love we're getting, Tara. Thank you all. Please share this information with your tribe, because we want to grow and touch as many people as possible, share as much information as possible, so we can all be successful as one collective body. With that said,
go do some work. Smell the day.
I know, right?
What y'all doing?
Thank you
Good
all.
talking to y'all. Thank you.
Bye.